Not every trip ends the way you think it's going to or would like it to. Hello everybody, loading up this weekend to go to a place called Bloody Skillet. It's a DCNR trail system in Pennsylvania. It's in the Sproul State Forest. It's free to go as long as you have your side-by-side or machine registered with the DCNR in PA, which is pretty much like 25 bucks. So it's one trail system. There's another one called Whiskey Springs. Maybe I'll get to that this weekend too. Meeting some friends tomorrow morning. Gonna load this up and we're gonna head out. I've been there before, small video of it on my channel from earlier, last year actually. We'll see what we can find this time. Maybe be something new. Definitely gonna get out to Newman's, good place to get something to eat. Gonna look into getting on the snowshoe trail. Check that out, that'll be new to me. So we'll check it out. Always take the mountain bike with for campground, running around, beats walking. Staying at a KOA this weekend. KOA is always nice. Kind of like the McDonald's of campgrounds. You know what you're going to get, and it's always good. Slow down. Thank you. Thank you. Any big rocks? No. Wasn't too bad, wasn't too bad. It's like a bigger funnel. Nice little hill here. Actually, I wouldn't mind coming up this. I think I have to come back up, actually. I know, it's ways out. Oh, that looks sloppy. Not altogether unfun, but I don't think I want to be that sloppy right now.
Not this early in the day.
Always keep a wheel out of the muck. Oh.
And eating stuff like that's why we don't get sick.
You're right. You're right.
Can't go backwards, go forward.
That's right.
Fine, everybody.
I don't want to go over a hill too fast and be like crooked.
Oh.
Kind of like that.
Jesus Christ.
Better just power through. Hey everybody, let me give you a little update. This is more of a PFA video, not so much a riding video. It was going to be a riding video, but it's not what it became to be. So I went up to Bloody Skillet over the weekend with a bunch of friends and had my co-rider, my friend Mike, was riding with me. We get onto the trails of Bloody Skillet and get about 6 miles on the trails, not far, and my right rear wheel bearing had catastrophic failure. Yeah. Not good.
Dude. You know what, Mike? It might have broke and it might suck, but it's still an adventure. And you're not by yourself. True. How's that wheel look back there?
Then I had to walk 3 miles back to the truck down the dirt road, which was better than driving this 3 more miles down and, you know, maybe further damaging something else, maybe breaking the axle, maybe breaking the brake caliper. As of right now, that all survived, so that's better than it not. Got it back home. I left my house at 5:30 in the morning, Saturday morning, 3.5 hour drive to the trailhead, unloaded, rode for 6 miles, had a reload up, and drove back home. The day in total was a 12-hour day, almost to the minute when I got back home. So yeah, it kind of sucked. Then I just had to take this thing apart, and I had just gotten this back together after redoing the shocks. The shocks I had to get sent out to Walker Evans and get a new shock body on this back passenger because the slider had actually wore almost through the body, which is something I did not know could happen. Well, makes sense, it does grind, and people will tell you there'll always be some rubbing on these. That's normal. But mine back here was almost wore through. So I had to get that redone. I got all 4 rebuilt just because they got 4,500 miles on them, so I got all 4 rebuilt, and that was money well spent. The ride of it is like brand new. It went from night to day, the difference. If you think about getting your shocks redone, you should get them redone like every 1,000 or 1,500 miles. That's way too often. If they leak, get them rebuilt. I cleaned it all up. The CV actually looks just fine. Looks like it's gonna be good. No problems with that. No binding, no nothing. I cleaned out all the grease, got rid of any fragments of metal, turned the boot inside out, got rid of all the grease on that. This should be fine. I watched a video of how it was running coming back to the trailhead. It does not, I don't think it had any hard angles on it for any length of time. Certainly wasn't going fast. Repack this, seal it up, this will be good. The bearing carrier is another story. This is the problem when bearings go out when on the trail. The bearing carrier did not hold up so well. So let's see if we can get some light on that. Now the outside is completely boogered, and that's not the worst. It's the inside. Let me go here to the bench. What we have a problem with here is the lip. The lip inside here that would hold the shelf for the bearing, when you press the bearing in from this direction, it sits in here on this little shelf. Well, very little bit of that shelf is left at the top where it was rubbing and what. So this here I'm replacing, which is $200. You could reuse this. I would not. If that shelf up there under the, the bearing gets stresses on it, if that were to give out, then you've just wiped out everything again, and that's just no point in that. We'll replace this. So that right passenger rear bearing, that had about 1,200 miles, a little more so on it when it went out. Checked them like I always do before every ride. No play was in that bearing or any of them before I went on that trip. 6 miles down the trail, it fails. So I checked my log. I keep a log, service log of everything I do, and the date and the mileage. And this front bearing here, this guy had about 1,300 miles on it. So I've already replaced it, even though I had no problems with it. I just don't want it to fail out on the trail and cause the collateral damage of the hub and everything like that, because the hub also got taken out when this bearing went out. The hub was taken out. And this really gets a hit. That's the surface that will contact the inner race of the bearing. I do not trust that to be that marred up, especially where it goes into. It's just so sharp now. Everything about it is sharp, and you don't want that. So you can get these for about $60 on eBay. Replacing this, replacing the bearing carrier, So you're looking at about $300 worth of damage, just because of a $27 bearing went out, but it didn't have any sign of that. So now, to prevent that hopefully from happening anymore, I'm going to start replacing my bearings probably around every 1,200 miles without question. This one was at 1,200 miles, it went bad, all right? 1,300 miles, replaced, brand new. This one has 800 miles on it. Let that one go. I might grease it. Why not, while it's up on dry dock here. This one only has 200 miles on it. So that one's good. Okay, so what to look out for so this doesn't happen to you, right? When one bearing, either the front one went or the back one, both times this happened where the bearing just failed outright without warning, the brake pedal goes to the floor. And the reason for that is the rotor, when it starts getting play in it, because the bearing no longer holds this all tight, and it starts slopping like this, at the brake caliper, it starts spreading these shoes apart. When this wobbles, it spreads these apart. Basically, it's pushing the piston back. So in order to get any brakes, you've got to pump the brakes a couple times to squeeze these back together until they hold this rotor. Well, that's no good. So if you lose brakes, as you should anyway, if a brake pedal goes to the floor, stop. Check all four wheels. Could, of course, be a brake line, but if you check all four wheels and one shakes, one wobbles, if you can avoid driving it any further, stop. Because the collateral damage is the bearing carrier, front or back, and usually always the hub, too. And it costs about $300 no matter what you do to fix it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to carry a spare, not junk bearing, one that still has use in it, but not a brand new one. The inner race, the outer ring of the bearing, that seems to always last, despite the inner cage breaking apart and the inner races, I guess, they just disintegrate. On the trail, I could pull the hub out, and I can actually split an old bearing, a raced cage, the ball bearings in their cage, on the inside and on the outside, and you can replace one on the trail. It's not something I would do as a permanent fix, but it would get you the rest of the weekend, or at least back to the truck, without doing further damage to your bearing carriers or your hubs. I'm not going to carry the bearing with me. It's just too much to carry between the driver for the castle nut, everything to do to change it out. But back at my trailer, hey, somebody can always run me back or run back and get it for me, because this is not something that should happen often, if ever. Being said that, it happened to me twice. And I do maintain this vehicle. But each of those bearings that failed had, about 1,000 some miles on it. I maintain it. but things can break. So it's crappy, and the weekend sucked, but it could have been worse, or could have not made it back to the truck. If it makes it back to the truck, it always feels like a win. So maybe a bigger trip coming soon. No plans just yet. Summer's weird right now. The whole things are opening. Some things ain't fully open. Still weird. But hopefully a new adventure coming soon for me and for you. So thanks, and later.